How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Oh boy. So we had an interesting interaction with Rika. That was probably the highlight of the last episode. Again, I'm sorry it was a little shorter than usual. Circumstances being what they were. It was kind of honestly lucky I was able to record it at all. So yeah, we're here, we're back. We're jumping right into it again. So Rika, she seems to be somewhat on our side. She also seems to know a lot about what's going on. I'm guessing that she heard it from some kind of meeting. Somebody saw us, I don't know who, but whoever saw us reported us, and that report got through. But there's clamoring voices on how involved we might have been. So Toмотaka-san and Takado were both, taken out and taken away, and there's probably two people who need to be vanished now. However, when I think what happened here is that it was us and Shion probably on the target list, but Mion had an interaction with us, and she kind of said that she was going to keep everyone away from us, and then the mayor disappears. And Rika said that Mion's angry, but that she's also not making the best decisions. She's like, I don't know why she did that to the mayor. So the mayor got vanished, but it seems like there might be some infighting going on there. And Rika said that she knows that we were just curious. It wasn't really something we did out of maliciousness. So she's going to try and protect us. And so she, her directive was that we should just behave like normal. Hard to do, but it should be doable. It's not going to work, but that's because, we know how this is probably going to go, how it probably has to end. But all the same, let's going to see. So we're going to play through this episode. I think there's going to be a lot of content for the end of this day, so we should be able to get to that and through the tips. If it ends faster than expected, I might get a head start on the next chapter and just probably won't see it through too far. But, that's logistics at this point. I think we're good. So, yeah, that's a recap. Let's jump into it. That day, Rika-chan said that she wasn't feeling up for club activities, so she suggested we don't bother. There's always vetoes when somebody doesn't feel up to it. Rena and the others seemed really disappointed. The big sister cat is not in a good mood. I remember Rika-chan's words and quite quickly stole a glance at Mion's expression. If I could forget the way she questioned me yesterday, though, her behavior was the same as it always was. Oh man, I definitely should have kept going a little further, huh? But let's see. I don't think this day's over yet. Alright. Okay, evening time. After dinner, without the energy to watch TV, I climbed into the futon in my bedroom and let my head be overtaken by gloomy thoughts. I told Rika-chan anything and everything. She had seemed trustworthy at the time, but had that really been the right choice? I don't know, man. At this point, who knows? The more I looked back on it, the less I understood what Rika-chan was saying. Not only did she know about Takado-san and Toмотaka-san's death, but she spoke of them as if she were a concerned party. After all this time in my futon, I began to tremble fiercely. Had I been lured in by Rika-chan's sweet smile and told her things I shouldn't have? Probably. I shouldn't have continued to feign ignorance. I shouldn't have shown her such a weak side of me. My emotions are a mix of regret and fear, and it colored the darkness of the night with an additional layer of terror. Suddenly a knock. I might have yelped. That's how surprised I was.
Keiichi, さっきから呼んでるぞ。電話だ。園崎さんから。
Oh. Again, that's why I think this game's gonna really mess with us. I don't know who's calling. It could be Shion. It could be Mion. It could be Shion saying she's Mion. It could be Mion saying she's Shion. I don't know. It was Dad. I reached out for the cordless phone through the gap in my door.
園崎さんって、どっち？姉？妹？
そんなのは知らん。自分で出て聞きなさい。
I took the receiver and buried myself in my futon again.
もしもし、ミオンか？シオンか？
私です。シオンです。こんばんは。
I practically jumped out of bed. It was Shion, who I hoped so desperately would call me back that last night.
シオン！ゆうべはすまなかった。つい興奮して。
I heard what sounded like a deep sigh on the other end.
俺もシオンも同じ立場なんだよな。一方的に責めるような言い方をして悪かった。もうしない。謝るから機嫌を直してくれ。
機嫌を直したから電話したんです。後悔したなら許してあげますから。もう謝るのをやめてください。
Shion's tone still sounded a little angry, but for the moment she said she'd forgive me.
ケイちゃんの言うように、私たちは運命共同体なんです。互いの無事の確認が自分たちの安全の唯一の保証なんです。
ああ、それについては同感だ。
だから、私たちは互いの知っている情報を共有する必要があります。
See, like, it sucks because I'm so suspicious. I'm feeling paranoid because it's like, if it is Shion, she's kind of right. But it could be Mion trying to dig for information.
高野さんたちみたいな死に方をしないために。
Gulp. I forced myself to swallow a solid drop of saliva.
では、昨日の続きを話します。もう怒らないで聞いてくれますよね。
ああ、大丈夫だ。
まず、私たちが思っている以上に、西宮殿に忍び込んだことは禁忌、タブーだったみたいです。
Takano and Toмотaka-san's miserable ends, terrible enough that you could call them a warning. They were more than enough to make me believe that.
犯人たちは、西宮殿を怪我した首謀格のあの二人を殺し、次に私たちを狙います。否定したいでしょうが、これを認めてください。失踪してから認めても、もう遅いんですよ。
わかってるって、用心に越したことはないからな。
私も、本当は認めたくありません。あんな拷問道具の博覧会を覗き見したことが、あんな殺され方をする理由になるなんて、絶対に信じたくない。
I mean, that's the thing though, it's like, I feel like the warning signs was that it exists. A place like that exists. It's not out in the open. It was hidden. That speaks volumes about the motivations. But it's not enough, especially in a modern world. Like, if you actually, like imagine if you, I don't know, heard about that kind of thing happening. Especially if it was tied to like old legends, not just like, oh, there's like a local gang and like if you go to the wrong part of town, they shoot you. Like that sounds like something you've heard on the news before, so it sounds relatively reasonable. But what if instead it was in your town, it says, oh yeah, there's a religious group here. You know that they exist, that they're real, but like they just seem innocent enough. Maybe you hear them standing at the local bus stop and, you know, carrying a sign saying the end is nigh or whatever. But then you hear rumors that like they secretly perform blood rituals in a basement somewhere. And then you heard an opportunity saying like, hey, I found a weird thing in a basement. I heard it's tied to that like that like cult's group or whatever. Like, because that feels like something that would actually be so removed, because like it's like, how could anyone actually be doing that in a modern day, especially in a modern society? It's like you couldn't help but be a little curious, right? Because there'd be that separation where it's like it just sounds too like fictional to be real. So then you find that. What do you even do with that information? Who do you even tell? Because who's gonna believe you, especially if you don't have any actual evidence? That's what the taboo is. For those who honor it, if one breaks the taboo, no matter how small or innocent their intentions were, they wouldn't be forgiven.
互いに何か気になることがあったら報告し合いましょう。
To who?
互いの持つ小さな断片を合わせていけば、ひょっとすると高野さんたちを殺した、いえ、今年の事件に限らない。過去の連続事件を解決する鍵が見つかるかもしれません。
そうだな。確かにそうだ。
All I was doing was waiting in fear. Shion had already thought that far ahead. Given how trustworthy she felt, I became embarrassed over how passive I was being.
では、まずは言い出した私から行きます。
Okay.
最近、誰かに監視されているような気がします。
え？
と言っても、気のせいかもしれません。でも、一応報告します。今は気のせいだと思っていますけど、もしもケイちゃんも同じように誰かに監視されているように感じるなら。
It's kind of funny too, because like there's something very real about this. I remember like we talked about this in some of my classes, where it's like it seems like a superstition, the idea that like you can tell when you're being watched, but the problem is that the track record, like under observation in studies, actually it's not perfect, obviously, but it leans to the fact that more often than not, when we are being carefully observed, we do recognize it. The best logical explanation for this is that we're visual creatures. Our ancestors relied heavily on our vision to keep ourselves alive and to keep ourselves from danger. That perception is really critical for us. In fact, it's kind of funny because despite the fact that a lot of animals like are clearly bred for hunting, like you have your exceptions of like birds, like predators, falcons and eagles, how they can see from really far away. But the thing is that, you know, with the lenses like in eyes, it's not like you have like a zoom factor. For a lot of times, like they have some control over like finer control over their lens shape, but you'll find that for predators that can see details from far away that help them hunt, they actually are almost blind close up. They can struggle to see. That's a great thing with a cat. If you have a cat, it has eyes that are good at seeing in the dark, but they actually suck at seeing things close up. Things, I think, from 3 feet or like a meter to like 8 to 10 meters, they actually have really good vision for in night or daytime. But anything within that 3 meter range is actually fairly blurry for them. That's why if you've ever like played with a cat and with a toy or watched them hunting a mouse, they'll dash across a field to grab at something. But then if something's like jumping around at their feet, they'll look around really confused and maybe struggle to really be really accurate with it. And that's just because of like the idea, like eyes that can adjust and handle different ranges are actually pretty rare. So humans have one of the best developed ocular cavities in nature. Not so much just strictly about range, but about clarity from long and short range. Obviously, we can't see as far as a falcon can, but we do have strong recognition capabilities from a good distance away and up close. And we also tend to have better rod and cone receptors than most, like mammals, for instance. There might be creatures that can see greater parts of the spectra of color and maybe see colors we can't see, but we have a really fine, detailed ability to observe our world. We sacrifice night vision for that, you could say, because a lot of times the animals that are nocturnal don't see in color, but they can see better at night because they dip into the infrared spectra, which helps a lot. Anyway. Moving on from that, the whole idea of what I'm saying here is that despite the fact that we might not consciously recognize when somebody's paying particular attention to us, our subconscious is primed and prepared for that. We observe things all the time that our forebrain doesn't really, it might ignore. Our brain has so much to deal with and process. It's really good about trying to compartmentalize and focus on thoughts and specific lines of interest to keep our higher thoughts processing on. Because if we tried to literally absorb all the information we have at our fingertips, we'd be overwhelmed. But our subconscious can filter through a second layer of that a bit. And they believe that's what's happening. That's kind of like how peripheral vision works. Like it's all really blurry over here, but your subconscious is the one that kind of gauges potential risks. So something comes flashing out of your peripheral vision towards you, you'll jump and you'll turn. And that's your subconscious kicking into high gear, recognizing something's heading toward us. We can't see it very well. We need to know what it is, so you go focus on it. Same thing with being watched. If people are drawing attention to you in passing, your eyes might catch that person staring intently at you. You don't notice it because you're not looking for it with your processing center of your mind, but your subconscious will recognize it as a potential threat. Because again, what's the most dangerous thing for humans? Other humans. Sure, there's nature and there's wildlife, but frankly, the thing that's the most likely to hurt you out of will, something that might target you and specifically decide to eliminate you, is most likely another human being. So we have that. So feeling like you're being watched, trust that instinct. Even if it's wrong, it'd be better to be wrong than to be right and ignore it.
これは気のせいじゃないのかもしれませんから。
そういうことなら安心しろ。少なくとも俺の方は大丈夫だ。
I think. As I spoke with Shion, I thought back on today. I had no grounds to say that everything was fine.
そうですか。では気のせいということにしますが、ケイちゃんも注意してください。特に一人で表を歩くときは、細心の注意を払ってください。
That's scary. Be careful when you're by yourself in public.
私は沖宮ですから、一人きりになることはそうそうありませんが。
Oh, I think she means in
ケイち
public.
ゃんはHinamizawaです。
See, when I think about being in public, it's about being in a crowd, going to a restaurant or something. But no, she's talking about being outside, by yourself in the open, on roadways or sidewalks or traveling through the forest. She's saying that the danger will be when we're isolated, but in a public area. So not at home, not in school, not in a building or at a place where other people are. She's probably about to forecast what we saw in the first chapter, which was the van that tried to run us off the road.
一人ぼっちになることも多いはずです。特に注意してください。
そうだな。ああ、気をつけるよ。
It's so funny because, like, the normal reaction I would have be like, all right, well, let's just make sure we walk home with Rena more often. Like, make sure that we don't try and do anything by ourselves and just be extra careful. But no, partnering with Rena, that's not going to be a solution.
それから、お姉なんですが、何か変わった様子はありませんか？
Come on, tell her.
お姉って、ミオンのことか？変わった様子って、どういうことだ？
先日、私、お姉に渡流しの夜の所在について問いただされました。
え？それは俺もだよ。一昨日かな。ミオンに聞かれた。
やっぱりですか。私は言ってないと答えました。ケイちゃんは？
同じだよ。ごまかした。
Both of us gave a quiet sigh of relief. That's the thing too. It's like, that's another reason why they should have talked like a lot sooner. Is like, if you're gonna lie, you need to get your story straight. So you need to like corroborate, be like, okay, are we gonna say we went there? No. Are we gonna say we were together? They should probably coordinate that, because that's the thing too that they'll be asked is like, were you with Shion? And like, you should either say yes or no, because you either have to both say yes or both say no at the minimum.
渡流しの晩以降、お姉の様子はおかしいです。用心に越したことはありませんので、注意してくださいね。
Mion was acting strangely. Aside from her asking me about the night of Watanagashi, she hadn't seemed too out of the ordinary. At least not from my point of view. Her twin sister, though, was saying she was acting weird. Maybe it was such a slight change that a stranger like me wouldn't be able to notice.
わかった。少し用心するよ。帰り道は必ずレナも一緒だから、二人きりになるってこともそうそうないしな。
用心してください。気になることがあったら教えてくださいね。
わかった。
Oh boy.
では、ケイちゃんの方では何か私に話すことはありませんか？
Is he gonna mention the Rika thing? My turn. That's right. Maybe I should report on Oishi-san asking me the same question at the library.
あ、ケイちゃんが逃げ遅れたあの時の話ですね。
ああ、大石さんにかなり強い口調で聞かれたよ。あの晩、高野さんたちと一緒にいなかったか、シオンに会わなかったかって。大石さんは、俺たちが4人一緒にいたところを見ていたようだった。
警察にしてみれば、高野さんたちが最後に会った人間ということになりますからね。私たちに興味を持つのは、ある意味当然でしょうね。
こっちもごまかしたけど、かえって興味を持たれたかもしれない。
There's no way I could have tricked that sly old fox, Oishi-san. My trouble at the continents would have only made him even more certain.
なあ、シオン、警察なら、行っちゃってもいいんじゃないのか？むしろ俺たちの状況を思えば、警察を味方につけるのは、プラスだと思うぞ。
I don't know what she's gonna say. She's gonna be like, no, that'd be even more dangerous. Shion didn't answer right away. For a few moments, all I could hear was her breathing as she thought about it.
そういえば、大石さんは、ミオンに何らかの嫌疑がある、なんて言ってたような気がする。うん、確かにそう言ってた。
昨日も話しました通り、園崎家はHinamizawaに強い影響力を持っています。大石は一連の連続開始事件を園崎本家が中心になった村ぐるみの犯行だと疑っていますから。
Well, he's probably not wrong. I think that's the case too.
園崎家が中心になった村ぐるみの犯行？
Well, I mean, that's a bit of a stretch. I think there's key members who are directly involved. Majority of them would be, I would consider, accomplices, because at the very least, they're accomplices by omission. You know, the idea of because they ignore what the demons do, they're allowing things to happen and not saying the information that could get them caught. So they are kind of working together, even if they're not actively active in it, which is actually a really decent way to try and hold the village, because you have like the showmanship, like of the rituals. You scare everybody into thinking they could be next if something happens, if someone betrays them, and then you comfort them by saying like, look, you don't have to do anything, you just don't interfere. Don't say anything to outsiders, don't imply anything, just keep yourself to yourself and you'll be safe. Because like those kinds of orders are a lot easier to follow than believing all of them can hold the secret and like perform rituals and be willing to rise to that occasion. Please don't get angry like you did yesterday and just listen. I hammered that home before I got too upset.
Hinamizawaのダム闘争の時、リーダーシップを期待された神主があまりに日和見だったので、園崎本家が首謀閣になって決起したんです。戦いの歴史については、お姉から聞いてますよね。
あ
I like how she refers to them as battles because, like, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I understand it was like a struggle, but a battle.
南沢全体で一丸となって戦ったんだろう。デモをしたり、裁判に訴えたり、テレビに出たり。
実際は、もっともっと過激なこともたくさん行われたんです。
Oh boy.
園崎本家が水面下で、様々な違法な抵抗活動を行ったと言われてます。
Maybe sabotaging equipment, stuff like that.
違法な抵抗活動？
例えば、夜中に建設現場に忍び込み、機材を盗んだり、壊したり、建設重機のガソリンタンクに角砂糖を入れたりとか。
Yeah, it's pretty illegal.
ガソリンタンクに砂糖？
Yeah, sugar and gas is tough because it gunks up the engines. Like it breaks down enough in the gasoline, like it's soluble, so it breaks down into it and can be hard to detect. But then when it gets into the engine, it becomes like sticky and adheres to everything, and so it fills the engine and the piping, and then it makes it become inoperable, as far as I can tell. Like it'll shut down the capability for the engine to turn over. But then, unlike something like water, because like you pour water in a gasoline tank, the same thing would happen, but you can flush a tank and get the water out. With sugar, that's a much more lengthy process and probably be easier just to replace some of the critical parts. And if you have to do that multiple times, the costs are going to skyrocket.
なんでそんなことを？
知らないんですか？戦争中にフランスの地下組織なんかがやった典型的なゲリラ活動ですよ。砂糖を入れるとエンジンが焦げついて壊れちゃうんですよ。
That's pretty bad though, isn't it? It was destruction of property and nothing less.
建設現場への監視が強化されると、今度は工事の重要な立場にある人間への攻撃に変更されました。
Dang.
例えば、工事を認可した役人たちには様々な脅迫が行われました。
Well, that sounds like politics today.
それは県庁の役人だけでなく、建設省の偉い役人にまで及んだそうです。聞いた話では、子供の誘拐までやったとか。
They what? Are you serious?
誘拐？
Why have we never heard that?
建設省のひなみざわダムを担当する偉い人の子供が神隠しにあったんですよ。
Spirited away, huh?
で、ある日突然、ひなみざわのもっと上流の高津戸の山中で保護されまして。
Okay, so they grabbed him and took him, but they didn't like make him vanish. They were holding him hostage, essentially.
犯行声明はなかったって言われてるんですけど、ダム工事を中止するようにとの脅迫があったのではないかと囁かれています。
That's interesting because that doesn't seem to follow. It doesn't follow the same MO of like obscuring crimes obscuring crimes to hide the motivation behind the curse. That seems like just blatant kidnapping. But you could also argue that what it was is that it was meant. So like, because remember, like the repeated killings didn't start till after this project, but you have probably the priests and the members of the cult who are, probably pretty good or practiced at these traditional methods of, coercion. So they utilize the tactics, not to spirit him away, but not to like make him vanish in the ritual, but simply to kidnap him. But again, it showed how successful they could be, and after like they are successful at the dam project, when they instigated like the dismemberment of the guy at the scene, and they got emboldened by how successful that was, and that's when the killings start happening because it stopped being about just a ritualistic behavior that was supposed to like appease God, and it became a tool for political endeavors.
他にも枚挙にいとまがないほどの脅迫の話があります。
Sheesh, I went hard.
それは確かにちょっとやばいな。
そんな最中だったんですよ。第一の事件、現場監督のバラバラ殺人があったのは、園崎家が主犯格の男を買収したのではと囁かれてますが、何しろ今日も逃走中ですからね。
Once you put it that way, the Sonozaki family definitely seems suspicious.
犯人も口封じで消したんじゃないかって大石は思ってるみたいです。当然ですね。
Yeah, I mean that does make sense.
身内である私ですら、園崎本家の暗躍があったのではないかと思ってるくらいですから。
それを、俺に信じろってのか？ミオンの園崎本家が、そんな悪いことをやってきたと、信じろというのか？
I'm saying that
ケ
it
イちゃん
feels
が
more
信じなくて
possible.
も、村人たちは信じてます。自分たちが綺麗な抵抗運動をする陰で、園崎家が汚い抵抗運動をしてくれた。自分たちの矢面に立って戦ってくれたんだって、みんな思ってます。ですから、ちょっとしたダークヒーローとして崇められているんですよね。
Right, right. It's interesting because, like, when you phrase it like that, essentially they viewed they view the Sonozakis as most of us view Batman. Gotta admit, Batman does pretty illegal stuff. In fact, if Batman was more like the Punisher, where he would kill people, would you still think he's a hero, or would that be taking it too far? Because that's essentially how the villagers probably see the family. They're not sure exactly how that happens, but things happen. When bad things need to happen to other people, they do. The Sonozakis are responsible for it. And as long as you're willing to cooperate, to not undermine their efforts, and to support them, they have your own private Punisher on your team.
私が知っているのは本当に一部だけだと思います。例えば、誘拐なんかの特にヤバい話は、当主のバッチャーを含め、ほんの数人しか知らされてないと思います。園崎家は秘密主義ですから。
Right.
秘密主義。
Even internally, they're secretive. A family so unforthcoming that even Shion, who's related to them, doesn't know everything about them. The Sonozaki family. Unlike Shion, her older twin, Mion, was deeply involved with everything, and that was not a fun thought to entertain.
そういった違法な抵抗運動の中心として、年少ながら活躍したのがお姉でした。
Young? Yeah, she would have been in like middle school or like even elementary school. She was the leader. Well, yeah, she did speak very proudly of what they did. So that kind of makes sense. But the fact that she was like, was she the one who orchestrated like the dismemberment?
ミオンが、どういうことだよ。
That's pretty insane.
うちのお父さん、ヤクザの大物ですから、年少のお姉でも、若い柄の悪いのを何人も従えることができました。
Oh.
で、様々な嫌がらせや妨害をやってのけたんです。
ミオンが。
今はなんだかのんびりした雰囲気だから、想像もつかないでしょうが、器物破損から脅迫、暴行まで一通りこなして、何度も補導されたんですよ。
She was picked up for it. Like she just went to prison as a juvenile.
子供ですから、すぐに釈放してもらえたみたいですけどね。
That's crazy.
お姉は、自分の年齢が武器になることを知ってたみたいです。
Oh, that's actually a lot less crazy. That's terrifying. Oh my gosh. How often do you think that actually happens? Where people, like you think about gangs or mafias or just any kind of crime that's organized. It doesn't even have to be large scale. It could be small scale. What if they brought up their children to utilize as weapons? In fact, that kind of happens. There's warlords in other countries that have been known to recruit children, teach them how to wield weapons and use them because they know that the enemy is less likely to try and gun down a child even if that child is gunning them down. That's crazy. It may have been indiscreet, but I couldn't help but chuckle dryly. She may have been young, but she was certainly still Mion. Even back then, she'd already been known for her craftiness.
笑い事じゃないです。真剣になってください。
悪い。そんなつもりじゃ。
Shion had gotten pretty angry at me.
まあ、そんな不良娘だったお姉も、いつの間にか園崎本家の重鎮。
You reward her wildness because she's like makes the perfect leader of a cult that kills people.
大石がバラバラ殺人以降の事件を疑いたくなるのも、まあ無理ないことです。
Dang. For a few moments, I was dumbstruck at the tales of Mion's past. None of them matched the image I had of her. A younger Mion dirtying her hands with all sorts of crimes, giving the dam construction project hell. As the successor of the Sonozaki main family, she was always right at the center of the vortex of strange incidents occurring year after year. Was that really the Mion I know? Maybe the one I know isn't the real Mion. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't bring myself to accept these images of Mion I was hearing from another person.
まあ、話を戻します。お姉が注意に値する存在であることは理解してもらえたと思います。注意してください。
I didn't want to understand. Mion was a fantastic friend. She would never do something to back me in a corner like that. She did me pretty harshly about the night of the festival, but even that, it wasn't like she said that in a mean way or anything.
わかった。気をつけるようにするよ。
私とお姉は血のつながった姉妹ですが、園崎家にあってはまるで格が違うんです。
Now, obviously, this was implied, but it's interesting hearing her say that. She was like, "You might be related by blood, like, and by DNA, but we're basically different classes because they're in different responsibilities." Basically, Shion seems to be like the normal child, and Mion is the inheritor of the cult, and so they're completely living different lives.
私とはとても遠い存在だということを認識してください。お願いします。
The more Shion tells me about Mion, the less I understand who Mion is. The Mion I know wasn't a dangerous person. She joked around, smiled a lot, was full of passion. Now that I'd realized I'd had such a view toward her, Shion was telling me to change it. To be careful around the best friend ever. Aww. To doubt her. The idea was very sad and painful.
で、大石の件ですが、ケイちゃんがいいと判断するなら、必要な情報を与えてもいいと思います。
Interesting. I didn't think she was going to say that. I thought she was going to tell us about like how like the village will turn on people who trust outsiders.
やはり警察を味方につけるのは私たちに有利に働くと思います。
やっぱりシオンもそう思うか。
ただ、今説明した通り、園崎の人間はそもそも警察に睨まれているんです。
Right.
特に大石は園崎家が丸ごと連続事件の黒幕だと決めてかかってますからね。それはもちろん私も含めてです。ですから、私はあまり大石には関わりたくないんです。
Oh, you're gonna ask us to approach? I see. If Oishi-san had found out about the Sonozaki family's strife-filled history, then he probably wouldn't be very happy with Shion either. At least I understood what Mion's instinctive dislike for Oishi-san.
どうせバレてはいるんですが、一応私の名前を伏せておいてください。
I kind of like this, that she's basically saying, hey, we should go to the police, but actually you go to the police. And don't say my name, just implying.
それだけ守ってくれれば、大石には何を話しても問題ないと思います。
わかった。伏せるようにするよ。
警察の捜査力は、今の私たちにはとても心強い武器になると思います。
I hope so.
大石が興味深い話をしたら、私にも聞かせてくださいね。
ああ、もちろんだ。情報は互いに交換し、研究し合おう。高野さんたちを殺したのは誰なのか。そして俺たちを狙うのは誰なのか。それがわかるまで、俺たちは自衛しなくてはならない。
あとはありますか？大石に聞かれたこと以外は、身に起こったことは、どんな些細なことでも教えてください。
Rika? Aside from my discussion with Oishi-san. Oh. Should I tell her that I revealed everything to Rika-chan? Rika-chan was acting like she knew something I didn't. She told me to leave it to her, but what? And that's right. When I was talking to her, she mentioned Shion's name too. Was that a mistake? I felt like Shion would get angry.
何もないんですか？ケイちゃん？
I had to remain quiet for a little while, so Shion encouraged me to speak, unable to bear the silence.
I
don't know if I'd tell her everything, but if I like at least mention, be like, so Rika-chan at school talked to me. She used she used a metaphor, but she implied like she knew as well, that she'd at least heard about the four of us, that she knew that Takuro-san and Tomataka-san had been gone, and that Mion was really angry. She even implied the mayor is somehow caught up in all this. I don't know if I'd say like, oh, I mentioned you by name. As I struggled for what to say, Shion addressed me instead.
ないようでしたら、私から聞きたいんですけど、私もついさっき聞いたんですが、君吉のおじいちゃんが行方不明になったって、本当ですか？
The old man Kimiyoshi. My god told me that was the name of the mayor.
村長さんのことか？なんだシオン、聞いてないのか？
何も知らないです。お父さんが電話でそう話してるのを、また盗み聞いただけですから。
I realized I shouldn't have said that. here in Hinamizawa, the things that happened at this time when Onikakushi or Sama's curse would recur will all be covered up.
ああ、実はな、昨べ会合の後、家に帰ってこないとかで、南沢中で大騒ぎになったんだ。村中で探したみたいだけど、まだ見つかったって話は聞かないな。警察も探してるはずなんだけど。
なんでそんな大事な話を先にしてくれなかったんですか？
I don't know. She shouted angrily at me, bringing all her emotions to bear.
悪い。もう知ってると思ってたんだよ。隠す気なんかなかった。
The receiver was silent. Did Shion get mad again and hang up?
おい、シオン、もしもし？
ケイちゃん。
Oh no.
私、どうしよう。
Oh, fetch. Shion's tiny, confused voice sounded like it belonged to a different person than the one yelling a few seconds ago.
どうした？話せよ。俺たちの間で隠し事はなしだろ？
She hesitated for a long while, but then she confessed.
ごめん。隠すつもりはなかったんです。
Oh my gosh, what are you gonna tell me? Oh.
ちょっと言うのが前後したっていうか。
俺たちは仲間だろ。怒ったりしないから正直に話せよ。
Shion still hesitated for a few moments. Then in a resigned voice, she continued.
私、
Oh.
君吉のおじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。
Wait, why? Shion seemed to think that I would yell at her right after she said that, so I heard her catch her breath. Contrary to what she thought, though, I was a little relieved. Shion had done the same thing I had when confessed everything to Rika-chan. So, in a gentle voice as I could, so as not to set her off, I responded.
君吉のじいさんってのは、シオンにとって相談できる心安い人なんだろ？
はい。私のことを小さい頃から本当に可愛がってくれて。
Oh. You know, what if... Because remember, he went to a meeting and then vanished afterwards? What if he tried to protect Shion somehow? What if he said he was the one that went in, or he was the one that encouraged them to go look, or told them about it, and kind of offered himself in her place? I don't know if he would do that, but he seemed pretty nice when we saw him. That could explain it. Shion felt the same pain as the rest of us from the mayor's disappearance. No, more. She liked him. She was friends with him. She had a different kind of strength from Mion as she continued. Her voice sounded truly sad and pained.
私、いつも意地悪なことをしてたのに、いつもニコニコと笑って、私の言うことは何でも聞いてくれて、本当に優しい人だったのに。
落ち着けよ、シオン。別に死んでしまったわけじゃないだろ。そんな簡単に諦めるなよ。
Shion didn't answer. Even as I said it myself, I didn't think we'd find the missing mayor again. We probably would never find out if he was alive or dead. Shion must have been thinking the same thing.
村長さんに、私、最後でに忍び込んだこと、誰かにそれを見られてて、私たちを狙っている人がいるって。
村長さんは、高野さんたちがまともじゃない死に方をしたのを知ってるのか？
はい、知っていました。あの二人が、お社様のたたりで死んだから、私はその怒りを鎮める生贄にされるんじゃないかって。
Yeah, I think she might have... Okay, I'm starting to guess what might have happened here. There might be an avenue, according to the curse, that one person could offer themselves up in exchange for the protection of another, if they can make a solid case for it. So what if the mayor offered himself up as a sacrifice for Mion, for Shion, and maybe Rika is going to do something similar for us? So what if we go to school and Rika-chan's gone? She's just vanished now. And it's and then that's the idea, is if we continue to act normal and behave like nothing happened, and someone pays the price for us, then we should be safe. But if we keep investigating, keep digging, and start talking to outsiders, then we'll be put in danger again.
本当に率直に言いました。
ああ、それで？
君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そして、にっこり笑って、シオンちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しになんかなるものかって、本当に、笑いながら、
He told me to leave it to him. Yeah. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And I think Rika's gonna be gone tomorrow. Until Shion stopped sobbing, I was unable to find any words for her. I couldn't imagine what kind of person the mayor was, nor what Shion's relationship with him was like. Words of comfort, however, meant so much to us when we were about to be crushed by anxiety. Today, Rika-chan taught me that too. If someone who gave me such a sense of security were to disappear, then I could guess what kind of shock Shion was in.
私のせいです。私が打ち明けてしまったから。
よせよ、シオン。シオンのせいじゃないよ。
私のせいなんです。私が打ち明けてしまったから。君吉のおじいちゃんが知ってしまったから。だから殺されてしまったに違いないんです。だって打ち明けてすぐなんですよ。打ち明けて大丈夫って言ってくれたその晩に消えてしまった。
He found out. So he became involved.
話すんじゃなかった。これは全部私たち4人の動画だったはず。
And now we got Rika-chan involved.
他人に話してはいけないことだったんです。話したから殺されてしまった。だから殺されてしまった。
This music is horrifying.
打ち明けたから殺されてしまった。
おい、待てよ。そんな奴なら、打ち明けた村長を殺す前に、お前から先に殺すに決まってるじゃないか。順番が違うよ。殺されるなら、俺かシオンが先、他の奴らが先に死んだりするものか。
Because they offered themselves.
順番はあります。私たちを一番最後に殺すつもりに違いないんです。
は？なんだって？
人思いに殺さないで、親しい人たちから順々に殺していって、散々悲しい思いをさせた後に殺す、そういう狙いに違いないんです。
Oh, that would be actually super terrifyingly effective though, because it's like you know it's coming and you could sow fear and panic.
落ち着けって。シオンは今ショックを受けてパニックを起こしてるだけなんだよ。村長の失踪はシオンとは関係ない。無関係だ。高野さんたちの死とも全く関係ないんだ。
My words came out in a scream as if we were shouting at them by myself.
関係あります。絶対にそうなんです。
How are our parents not like overhearing at least half of this and being like gravely concerned?
私が話してから殺されてしまった。だから殺されてしまった。打ち明けたから殺されてしまった。
She repeated the same thing before as though she were in delirium. Despite my trying to console the crazed Shion, for some reason, the shadow at my feet began to freeze. Yeah, from that shadow, a cold arm reached out, so cold it seemed to would freeze even my heart by just touching me and grabbed my ankle. The heat generated from my body, the arm was absorbing it. It was a horrible chill. A freezing cold, numbingly frigid. It was an inviolable chill of fever. Though I sympathized with Shion, I had to be naive thinking it was something that only she had to worry about. In my head, Shion's eerie words repeated again and again. He was killed because I told him. He was killed because he found out. I confessed everything. So he was killed. These words echoed through my head like a monotone mantra, and finally those even repetitions took on meaning. The quiet shaking that had already overtaken me turned to a violent shiver that shot up my spine.
リカちゃん！リカちゃんだ！
え、今、なんて言ったんですか？
俺も、実は、打ち明けたんだ。リカちゃんに、今日！
リカちゃんって、リカちゃまのことですか？フルデ神社のリカちゃま？
そうだよ！リカちゃんだよ！俺も、どうしようもなく不安で、リカちゃんに。
そうしたら、リカちゃまはなんて？
Oh boy. The cat is worrying too much. I'll do something about it for sure. That's what Rika-chan said, and then she smiled. She smiled just like the missing mayor when he had encouraged Shion.
ごめん、シオン。俺、ちょっとリカちゃんのことがはい、
そんなに心配でしたら、ぜひ電話を、安否を確認してみてください。
ああ、そうさせてもらう。
また明日も、このくらいの時間に連絡します。
Oh boy.
それをもって、私の安否確認としてください。
Oh, and then she won't call tomorrow. Oh, I can feel the claw gripping us now.
わかった。待ってる。
Oh, the pressure.
じゃあな。すまん。切るぞ。
I put down the receiver without waiting for Shion to say goodbye. The danger of Shion and myself is secondary at this point. My sixth sense is blaring alarms in my head. I don't like this feeling. It's really bad. It's definitely bad.
くそ。無事でいてくれ。リカちゃん。
How do we call her? What are we gonna do? You better call. We're having a conversation with her tonight, right? You're doing something about it now. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Scrapbook note 8, and the punishment isn't over. Alright, here we go. Tips time. The three families in modern times. As previously described, the three families council today is a mere shell of democracy. In reality, it's a dictatorship run by the Sonozaki family. Both the Kimiyoshi and Furude families are far from their former glory, and it doesn't seem at all likely like they've maintained their ancient traditions. Only the Sonozaki families retain their glory from the past and has inherited many colorful traditions from the age known as the Onikakushi village. Even the most recent verifiable examples of Watanagashi that occurred at the end of the Meiji era seem to have been done under the orders from the Sonozaki family. Refer to the three families genealogical tree for the late Meiji. At the start of the Meiji family, Meiji era, the Sonozaki family wanted to push the development of Hinamizawa village, so they took a strong role in leadership. During the Dam Wars a few years ago, the Kimiyoshi family served as the chair of the opposition alliance, but this was in name only. In actuality, the Sonozaki family reigned as leader behind the scenes. People whispered that perhaps the Kimiyoshi family dictated actions of opposition that could be publicized, and the Sonozaki family enacted those which could not. See, that would actually make sense. There's a forward-facing group, and then there's the secret group. It's kind of like samurai versus ninjas. Even in Hinamizawa, they whispered that the multitude of unsettling incidents reported during the dam protests, such as the kidnapping of the famous head of Ministry Construction's son, had been carried out by the Sonozakis. Additionally, they say that perhaps the Sonozaki family's secret maneuvering was responsible for the serial freak deaths that had continuously occurred in recent years as well. The serial freak death incidents are without a doubt a second coming of the traditional Watanagashi. They must be enacting the Watanagashi on the day of the original Watanagashi, which has fallen to the level of an ordinary village festival, in order to remind the villagers of the holy laws of the Onikakushi village. It is safe to assert that exploring the Sonozaki family is the fastest route to researching it today. If I can expose the contents of the Furude Shrine storehouse, I'd likely narrow my research target down to the Sonozaki family next. The Sonozaki house is strictly guarded by security cameras on the premises, but thankfully, I've been acquainted with the sisters Mion, the next heir, and Shion. I want this to be a breakthrough I can connect to my line of research. Dang, so she really was trying to put it all together, and problem is she got too close to an actual conspiracy. Like, that's really what just happened. She was almost more interested in just the history part of it. She probably was a little surprised that it was real. Alright, the punishment isn't over. This looks like the festival.
いえいえ、気にしないでくださいよ。この店でおでんを食べるとですね、なぜか年計のガソリンスタンドの請求書に化けちゃうんですよ。だから遠慮しないでもう一杯飲んでいけばいいのに。
The man, red-faced, waved his hand to say he'd had enough and disappeared into the brilliant neon lights at the front of the station.
クマちゃんも勉強しといてくださいよ。謙虚な人が結局一番長生きするんです。
さっきの話、本当っすかね？
さて、それはわからないですけどね。真偽はともかく、そういう話がまことしやかに流れてるってことには意味があると思いますよ。
そんなのが村長を狙う動機になりうるんすかね？
クマちゃん、いつも言ってるでしょ？動機ってのは、その本人に十分でありさえすれば足りるんです。価値観の違いをよく考えなくちゃ。あ、お母さん、もう一杯ください。
Though we've been suppressing the information, Tomitake and Takano's deaths were already known throughout Hinamizawa. All the rumors pointed to them having incurred the wrath of Oyashiro-sama for setting foot in the Forbidden Temple, the storehouse of ritual implements. According to the rumors, there were two other people who went in there with them, Shion Sonozaki and Keiichi Meibara. People were whispering in the shadows that those two would be cursed by Oyashiro-sama as well. Apparently, however, the responsibility didn't fall solely on the four trespassers' shoulders. Until last year, it was locked up tight, but this year it had been changed to a simpler lock. Hadn't that been what allowed the thieves to enter so easily? Those were the rumors going around.
クマちゃんは見たことありませんか？ 私はずいぶん前に何かの用で行った時に見たことをよく覚えてますよ。
すみません。ちょっと思い出せないっす。
そりゃもう、おっかないくらいに厳重に施錠してありましてね。まるで大金庫みたいに厳重な蔵だったんですよ。
So why would they like lower the safety of it? This year was a very simple and cheap padlock. The lone girl protecting the shrine, Rika Furude, disliked heavy locks and consulted with the mayor. Who had replaced it with a simpler padlock.
だから村長とフルでリカも同罪ってことなんですか？だとしたら村長に続いてフルでリカもまずいじゃないですか。
Oh no!
その可能性は大ですね。クマちゃん。
See, that's one of the things odd though. Isn't she the end of the line for like the shrine people? Like, even if the Sonozaki family doesn't actually believe in the curse, which I would doubt, wouldn't they still need a figurehead for it? Because part of like the structure of why it works so well is that there are people who do believe in it. So if you got rid of Rika, what happens to the shrine?
Hinamizawa を巡回している覆面者に至急連絡。フルデ神社近辺に張り付かしてください。
了解っす。
Okay, well, that's interesting. That's me. But that's where we're going to end things for today. I think Rika's in trouble. I don't know why they would go after her, because I feel like she's so too heavily interested and entwined in things like important like traditions, but it does say pretty clearly that if the mayor was in trouble, she could be in trouble too. All the conditions have been met. She and the mayor were the ones that helped decide to make it more likely that someone could break into the shrine. She also was told about who did it and seemed like she was going to try and do something about it. The mayor did the same thing and he was vanished. So won't that mean that she has to vanish? And that's also the question that becomes, are Shion and Keiichi safe or not? Because I would hope that they may be offering themselves as sacrifices to appease the demon so that Keiichi and Shion could be left alone. But will they? And is it also conditional on how involved they get? Because if they talk to the police or start like asking too many questions, getting too close, or behaving oddly, maybe they'll get targeted then. But if they were to act perfectly normal, like nothing had happened, and like pretend it never happened at all, maybe they'd be allowed to get away with it. I just don't know. It really comes down to ultimately understanding who the motivating decision makers are. Like, what are their motives and why would they choose what they choose? Because and if it's just Mion, maybe I could see Mion wanting to desperately find somebody who could take the fall for them, because she probably doesn't want to kill, as far as I could tell, Keiichi or Shion. Will she, if she feels like it's her duty to? Maybe. I could see that. I feel like that's what we saw at the end of the first chapter, but I do think that she cares for them, and that makes it different. Maybe that was why she jumped on the mayor, because the mayor tried to protect Shion, and Mion was like, all right, we'll just vanish you instead. That should appease everybody. And that could be dangerous, because maybe it wouldn't appease the curse if it's real, and even if it's not real, other people involved in the higher echelons of the cult might disagree. So yeah. Oh, the next chapter is going to be interesting. I can already tell. It's going to be real spicy. So we'll have to end here for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed making it. Looking forward to reading your comments on this one. And then I'll be recording it pretty much right away. That's usually how this goes, because I pretty much have to record every day that I don't have to work. And the way that my schedule ends up, I usually can record the Hinamizawa right before I start my first shift of the week. So yeah, it could be interesting. But I appreciate you all being here, especially patrons and members. You guys are amazing. I don't deserve you, but hopefully we're making content that you feel is worth your support, because your support means a lot. It accumulates over time, and I can do things like commission art for the channel, or hopefully keep my equipment up to date or polished up or even upgraded eventually. But that's all neither here nor there. I just appreciate that you believe in me enough to actually do that. So thank you. And anyone who's watching this video, thank you for sticking around. Hopefully you continue to enjoy the content. My content's definitely pretty different from most you'll see, and I'm happy about that. I want that to be the case. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about it. But that's all about water under the bridge now. Let's see if we can survive. We won't. We definitely can't survive this, but I want to see us try. So looking forward to that part too. Anyway, thank you so much. Until next video, watching me up and see me in next. I'll see you there.